Hey everyone, how you doing today? We have our expert Jonathan Twomley with us. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Every day is a good day. Every day is a good day to make some money, and let's try to be just a little bit better than yesterday. That's a new
And
saying rolled out.
1% better than the day before,
Exactly.
right?
That's it.
Actually, I have this. Have you ever seen the movie Jiro Dreams of Sushi?
I have not.
Oh, you have to see this. It's one of the greatest documentaries out there, and it is about this 90-year-old uh, sushi chef in in Tokyo who earned a Michelin star,
Oh,
and it's about his quest, his ongoing quest for perfection at the age of 90, still trying to improve. And
nice.
he has this. He's at one point there's a food critic who's talking about Jiro's like kind of ethos, which is, you know, today better than yesterday, tomorrow better than today. And
Nice.
I actually had my mother-in-law, who is an expert Japanese calligrapher. I had her make that in Japanese calligraphy. So I actually have it on my wall here. I have one in my office, and I gave one to my
Nice.
partner. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, you'll have to send me that title offline so I'm guessing Netflix or somewhere will have it. So I'll find.
Yeah, it's all over. It's really a great movie. So
Cool. I will watch that either today or tomorrow. We are going to have 3 episode folks with Jonathan today. I promise you, you're going to want to watch all three. The first one we always hit because Jonathan and I speak Thursday morning is about the new unemployment claims. So did you see him this morning? What'd you think? What's going on?
I did, yeah. So they are came in higher than expected
Mhm.
at 793,000.
Yeah.
They actually revised the week before, which had looked better, upward to 812,000. So the net effect of all that is that the 4 week rolling average is now in the low 800s, which is a slight improvement, but it's still over 800, and
Yeah.
the claims they're still not coming down. However, within the numbers, there is some good news, which is that the claims were down in New York, in Florida, in Maryland, quite substantially. California, you're screwing us up, Michael. You guys are just messing things up by continuing. You had a big surge in California, which is really responsible for the number not coming down that much. But in some of the other states, we're seeing some improvement, and some of that is related to the decline in COVID cases.
Mhm.
We have reached a peak. We don't know if it's the peak yet, but we have seen a peak and substantial decline. And in New York, they're now reopening restaurants for indoor dining. They're going to let kids go back to middle school now, which is great. And so things are on the upswing here, at least for the time being, assuming that there was no, Super Bowl super spreader events. It seems like the herd immunity, the vaccine starting to kick in, and keep our fingers crossed that maybe we've put the worst behind us, but still
Yeah.
still to be seen.
Yeah. We still have some pain to go, but I do think the worst is behind us. We are now seeing cities and states who were, I don't know. I consider overzealous on lockdowns. That's a debate. Doesn't matter at this point. They're opening up, whether it's New York. Also, I heard New York is going to open up big events like the Barclays Center, where the New Jersey, no, the Brooklyn
They're the
Nets.
Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah,
Yes.
Brooklyn Nets. They play. T- they're going to have 10% occupancy. My economic brain goes, how the hell do they make any money at 10% occupancy? But hey, it's going to open up,
Well,
so that's a good thing.
I guess they're figuring they make more money than at 0% occupancy, right? So
Well, I don't know if
they
that's
sell
true,
some.
honestly, right? I mean, lights and camera and employment and food. And I mean, can they really? I don't know if that's true, actually.
Well, I think they're doing a lot of that already. I mean, not the food, obviously,
Uh,
right? Not the ushers, but they still have all the TV stuff is paid for by the TV
yeah, I don't
companies,
know.
right? So,
But I mean,
so I
I
guess
think it's the same thing as restaurants. I mean, you and I have talked for quite a while, like 8 months ago, that restaurants can't make money at 25% occupancy or
yeah.
50%. I think
But I
so.
think,
Go ahead.
yeah, I think a lot of restaurants though they have had outdoor dining, and if you walk down the streets of New York City, you see a lot of very creative outdoor dining spaces. Some of which are so well constructed. You look at them, and you're like, that's
How's that
just
not indoor?
that's really indoor dining, just outside and colder. It's not.
It's temporary.
There's no airflow. There's no nothing. But most places have done it right, and with they've been able to kind of scrape by with outdoor dining even in the wintertime, and now that they're going to be allowed 25% indoor dining,
Hmm.
that kind of doubles their seating capacity in a lot
Yeah.
of cases. So I think that will help. And when we get to 50%, hopefully in a month or so, that'll
Yeah.
make things a lot better. Anecdotally, I'm seeing or hearing, well, what I'm seeing, just I had to this morning. I had to run some errands before our call, and um, I noticed a bunch of new new construction going on in restaurants. So like the paper
Ah,
was up, the building permits are on the door. And I heard this morning as well from a couple of members of an organization I belong to called the Entrepreneurs Organization, where some of our members who had to close their restaurants because of COVID are now opening new restaurants. And probably what they're doing is they had big expensive spaces before, then they got out of those leases, and now they're opening new places in with really good leases, but I bet you,
I bet
uh,
you're right. Yeah.
and they're taking advantage of that. And it just this is a little bit. This is a real tangent, but I want to kind of there's it. So I have a good friend in Japan
Okay.
who he owns a company that has at least 100 mobile phone shops spread around Japan,
Okay.
right? And his company does $100 million a year in business, and he's he once told me that his business strategy is to wait for a recession. And every time there's a recession, he runs out and opens a whole bunch of new stores because he can get really good lease rates at that time. And that's how he expands his business. So he gets really good leases. He locks them in for a long time. And he just basically does as many as he can afford because he knows that, like,
Yeah.
after the trough is going to come the peak again. So,
Genius.
uh, yeah, and that's been his whole strategy. And now he's like younger than both of us, and he's
Oh, wow.
sitting on $100 million company, right? So uh,
Good for him.
he's yeah, that's the kind of thing that in real estate you really want to be thinking about,
Yep.
whether it's a lease, which is an interest in real estate or whatever. I mean, that's one of your biggest business expenses there is, and if you can lock in low lease rates at a time when everybody else is scared around you, that's going to give you a competitive advantage against everybody else when the good times come back. So that's what I think smart, savvy people are doing right now.
Yeah.
They're taking advantage of the ability to lock in low lease rates
Yeah. And
and,
that,
and start business.
yeah, that was something, again, I love the fact that these are all recorded. I was talking about 6 months ago that 2020 was going to be the year of the shutdown or the bankruptcy or the key, mailing of keys. But I fully expected 2021 to be the year of grand openings, right? Because people, creative
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, like you say, got out of a bad deal. Time went by. Now they see the future. Entrepreneurs, generally speaking, are positive people. They're going to go, now's the time, right? I'm gonna get in a month or two early. We're gonna construct while it's cold outside, so that we're open
Yeah.
when April hits, or late March or
But
whatever.
but but obviously there are only really sort of two groups of people who can take advantage of this, though.
Okay.
One is people who are well capitalized,
Mm-hmm.
so they can basically eat the loss that they had, and they
Mm-hmm.
still have something left over to go do a new business,
True.
and build up good business credit so they can get loans, they can get whatever. The other is people who were on the sidelines the whole time and didn't spend the money, so now they have the money to go do it. The
Mm-hmm.
people who can't do it are the people who, like, opened at the top and they were thinly capitalized, and they paid up for leases at the top of the market, and
Yeah.
now they're wiped out and they've got nothing left. And it's the same in real estate, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
the people who were going to get wiped out are the people who paid too much and then weren't able to sustain their debt service because the underlying fundamentals eroded underneath them.
Yeah.
People who got in early, they have it, their debt service is low enough that they can ride it out. People who are on the sidelines, not affected, but it's always the people who bought at the top of the market,
Mm-hmm.
too thinly capitalized, right, and maybe too aggressive with their assumptions, are the ones who can't take
Yeah. I
advantage of
think I think there's one more
that.
person at risk, and I see this a lot in real estate. I actually saw this a lot in '08. It's the person who tries to hold on for too long, right? The world shifted under them. They had some capital, they had some credit, they could get loans, but the crisis went on longer than they could operate. And what really
Yep.
happens is they really just kind of destroy themselves for many years to come, where they could have just said, okay, uncle, sell these quickly at a loss. I'm going to retreat so I'm stronger later. Um, I saw that a bunch in '08.
Yeah. I mean, it can, again, and this is, we've got kind of off the unemployment, but who cares?
It's all together. It's our show.
It's all, we can talk about whatever we want to.
Yeah.
The the thing is, obviously, if you're well capitalized, right, you can ride it out and you can wait for the upswing. But the problem is, if you're not well capitalized enough, then you just have to get out and cut your losses, right?
Mhm.
And it's been, I mean, I should go find these studies, but there are studies out there that basically show, and they're studies of the stock market, but markets are all,
Yeah,
you can analogize one to the other.
sure.
It's always better to sell too soon than to sell too late. Right?
Amen.
It is
I've learned that. Yes.
demonstrably better for you to miss out on some upside than to try to time the top of the market and miss it on the downside, right? So you sell too early. Look, you've made a profit, you've got money to invest, right?
Yep.
You're fine. Sell too late, and if you're not well capitalized enough to ride it out, you lose everything. And so that's like when I sold my properties before in 2019, people are like, you sold too early, you should ride this out. No, I sold when I got a good offer and I made a really good profit, and my investors are very happy. I was asked yesterday, do you regret selling? And I'm like, no, I don't
No.
regret selling at all. Like, yeah, so I missed out on, maybe I could have sold them for a little bit more money if I waited another year or two. So what? Like, it's
Yeah.
the bulls and the bears make money and the pigs get slaughtered, and
Exactly.
that's kind of like, you gotta be either a bull or a bear. You
I
can't just
totally,
be a hog.
yeah, totally
So,
agree. Bring it back on the unemployment side. Just the big number that frightened me this morning, I don't know if you saw it, is we now have
yes,
20.4 million people receiving some kind of aid.
some kind of assistance. Yeah,
That
that was yeah,
horrible.
up by 2 million,
Yeah,
right?
two and a half.
And
Yeah.
2.5. Yeah, so that is a big number, and kind of shows what the ongoing effect of week after week after week of 800,000 new claims. I mean, as we've said before, we've gotten used to this number,
Oh, so
right?
terrible.
It's just a
Yeah.
number, oh, 800,000, 700,000. Like, oh yeah, it's a little better. But I mean, it's like we have to kind of back up and say, wait a minute, like,
Yeah.
when we had 600,000 or 650,000 claims in 2008, it was a catastrophe. And we're
Mhm.
having that catastrophe week after week after week after week after week, right?
Yeah.
And that is, and at the same time, and I was thinking about this before we got on the call, it doesn't feel to me right now as bad as 2008. It's very weird, right? Like, I don't feel the same, because I think because it's that K-shaped recovery,
Oh yeah, for
right?
sure.
Because I think in 2008 everybody got hurt, right? You had money in the stock market, you got hurt. You had money in a house, you got hurt. You lost your job, you got hurt. Now, you know, you and I are surrounded by people who have done well during this thing.
True.
And it's very it's very distorted. Like, most of the people that we know
Mhm.
just started working from home, and nothing
Yeah.
really changed. Now, I mean, their big complaint is, oh God, I hate these Zoom calls all day long,
Yeah,
right?
that's their
Or
complaint. Yeah.
or like my kids, I have trouble focusing because my kids are around,
Yeah.
so I'm busier. But that
Or I need
it's not
space. I'm
like,
going to go buy a new house. Right.
right, right. It's not like I don't have enough money to feed my family, or I
Yeah.
can't pay my mortgage,
Yeah.
right?
Food or
So,
electricity. Yeah. Yeah.
right now, but there are lots of people who are having these struggles, but they're kind of being missed. We know sort of intellectually that they're out there, but I'm not seeing a lot of press coverage about it. I'm
Mhm.
not seeing, certainly, like in my immediate circles, I don't see it. You
Yeah.
probably don't see it either.
No.
And I think the journalists all come from the same class, essentially, that we come from, so they don't know anybody really who is like directly suffering either,
Yeah.
which is why you don't see it in the press. So I think it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that we've got 800,000 people every single week losing their jobs,
Yeah.
and that is like, not, look, there's additional stimulus money and what have you, but still, this is not a healthy situation, and there's pain somewhere, and right now the pain is being masked, and at some point it's going to appear in the system somehow, right?
Yeah.
We're not sure what form it's going to take, but there is going to be some form to this. And I think like the big fight, frankly, so we're going to get stimulus money coming up soon because basically what everything is running out next month. Congress is going to have to do something. The Democrats, will be able to they'll be able to use the budget reconciliation process to get through what they want. So we're going to have some stimulus no matter what the Republicans have to say about it. I think the big fight though is going to come when we've clearly beaten back COVID and unemployment claims are falling, but there's still a lot of that like long-term pain out there, like those companies that disappeared, all those people who, I think the political situation will be, look, things are getting better, the economy is growing again, we don't need any more stimulus money, people don't need extended unemployment benefits, we're certainly not going to give them an extra $300 a week or whatever. But the
Mhm.
fact of the matter is that it's going to take a long time for the economy to reabsorb all those people
Mhm.
when you've got, A, businesses that disappeared, and B, during every recession, you and I know, businesses that are capable of automating use that time to automate and just eliminate jobs permanently so they don't have to hire those people back when they come back. So it's gonna take some time. And I think that is a risk for rental owners, whether it's multifamily or single family, that they're gonna have to figure out. It's still unquantifiable. Like we don't know how this is gonna play out, but you have to be thinking about what happens when the stimulus money runs out to your tenants who are unemployed because the economy is getting better,
Mhm.
but they still can't find work, right? And how much is that going to impact you? Maybe a little, maybe a lot. You just don't know. But if you're not thinking about how you deal with the situation, uh, you've got your head in the sand, really. So
Yeah.
something that you should be cognizant of going forward.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say on the unemployment before we get into episode 2 is Biden's going to get his $1.9 trillion stimulus. It's going to happen. There's nothing in these numbers that would make that stop. So yeah, we're going to see. We just can't get used to 7 or 800,000. It's not okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to say
Sure.
something about stimulus too in general. I
Mhm.
mean, I hope that one thing that comes out of this thing that we've been through is that somebody somewhere in government in planning is sitting down thinking, okay, when we have another pandemic, whether it's 10 years from now or 100 years from now, how do we respond to it better? Like, what should the
Yeah.
economic stimulus be? Because I think this has basically been a disaster, right? The idea of like all these people, like you and me, who basically didn't see any effect at all
Mhm.
from this, got stimulus checks, which we didn't need. It's fueled all this, there's a good argument to be made that the whole Robinhood thing,
Hmm.
the whole Bitcoin thing is actually because people took these stimulus checks and they were like, hey, this is free money to gamble with. And and plus they're sitting at home. And also the all the sports gambling and other stuff has been like, they can't gamble. So people who have a gambling mindset have been gambling on stuff like this. The wrong people got stimulus money, right? The rich got a whole bunch of stimulus money, the banks, like all this stuff, and they just poured it into assets and just further, blew up asset prices, pricing out normal people even more. Like the way that I would say this should have been done is do it through the unemployment system, right? For people who actually lose their jobs,
Mhm.
give them actual money. Don't give anybody else any money, right? Don't give money to companies to like keep people employed. What's the point if they don't have work for them to do? Like why pay them? Just and don't pay them their salary. Like do it through the unemployment system,
Mhm.
and then they should have given like landlords directly rent, and kind of made the banks the gatekeepers for that in the sense of like, hey, the because just to try to eliminate fraud. I think what we've had now is like there's a ton of fraud in the system,
Mhm.
and through the PPP, and like just the money went to the wrong places and there was too much of it going out there. There should have been a lot less money going out the door, but it should have been a lot more directed to a couple of specific points. Like, you know, give give landlords, like give commercial landlords the rent money so
Mhm.
that all those restaurants don't go out of business permanently. They
Mhm.
just go into like stasis and their rent gets paid and they go into stasis. And then like the owners and the servers, like they're unemployed, give them some money to tide them over until this is over, right? That kind of stuff. Rather than what we did, which was just throw a buttload of money at everything. And,
Yeah.
it just wasn't targeted. Now, obviously, look, nobody knew, I- like we're shutting down the economy. So, oh my gosh. But, you know, now that we've had the benefit of seeing this play out, I
Mhm.
think we have to plan for the next one, and that next one's got to be really specifically targeted. Get the money into the hands of the people who are actually hurt, and don't give money to people who don't need it. Who are just going to use it to, you know, buy stuff,
Yeah.
buy buildings and whatnot. It's
Totally
just,
agree.
yeah.
Totally
So
agree.
that's
Very
my
cool.
rant.
No worries. I like it. I love your rants. All right. That's episode 1, folks. You're going to love episode 2 and 3. Here we go.